so flattering, honestly. Like, even though people know I'm South African, I represent Africa, you know, as a whole. All of us, like, we're taking over, you know. So I'm an African girl, and whoever wants to claim me, hey, we're taking it all. We're all taking it to the top. Bitch, I see right through you.
African pop music is having a huge moment right now, and it's bound to get bigger. It's already spawned major acts like Wizkid, Burna Boy, Davido, and Tems. African artists who've made it a point to succeed internationally without assimilating to Western standards. These artists prioritize their African audiences, ensuring their success benefits their home countries. Looking at all this, then seeing someone like Tyla pop up is my worst nightmare. She is a light-skinned, mixed-race African pop star who was picked by an American label to market to other Americans. In a country that has a pattern of stealing musical genres from black people, Tyla's racial ambiguity can be used to help rob the genre away from its black African originators. And Tyla might be complicit in all this, since she's been using any demographic she can claim as a come-up to become this huge American pop star. So, needless to say, Tyla can be harmful on so many levels. Let's start with how harmful Tyla could be to the Afrobeats music scene. A perfect example of this can be seen from her album and its marketing. The project was for an American audience. For starters, most of the promotions were stateside, the album parties, the performances, and the interviews. Tyla's tour, before it was canceled, had dates mostly in the US, but I guess Tyla being marketed so heavily over here shouldn't be a surprise, seeing how she's signed to Epic. Well, to be more specific, Tyla is currently in a joint deal between Epic and Fax Records. Regardless, it seems like Epic has the most power in the relationship.
I have the money, I have the power.
And you can feel their control all throughout the marketing and the sound of Tyla's album. This project felt like it had Amapiano songs an American thought could sell commercially. The songs are mostly in English, without any accents. There was an effort to make the visuals unspecific, like Tyla's on an island somewhere or an unknown city or some dance club, locations quote-unquote anyone can see themselves in. Again, I attribute this to the label making things appealing for Americans. However, looking further into it, I realized all these things I mentioned coincided with Tyla's artistry. Seeing her activities before she was signed to Epic, you could tell Tyla was already very westernized.
Well, when I was younger, I always wanted to be from America. I always was like, oh, I wish I was born in America.
First off, Tyla has been singing songs in English. In fact, before she was discovered, she was covering American songs on IG. And side note, I think that English is the only language she speaks. Then looking at the watered-down African sound from the album, Tyla has always been incorporating pop into Amapiano. She was an artist who was already Americanized. Matter of fact, Tyla's been quoted as saying she wanted to be the African Ariana Grande or Rihanna. Just to be clear, I'm not dictating what African pop music should be or saying Tyla isn't African enough. I'm a second-gen West African American. Trust me, my identity has been questioned a lot. What I'm saying is that Tyla being herself fits pretty well into American standards. Plus, Tyla and her label's ambitions are aligned. She already wanted to dominate the American music scene. Epic found a girl who strongly adhered to Western beauty standards that could sell African-ish pop music. She was their Rihanna of sorts. Okay, so I've outlined who was Tyla's targeted audience, and I've talked about how palatable she is in America, but how will she negatively affect the African pop music scene? Well, like I mentioned before, Tyla could help in decentering Black Africans from the popularity Afrobeats and Amapiano is having. Whether Tyla knows it or not, if she succeeds in America, it would make it that much harder for the Burna Boys and, more importantly, Tems of the world to break through the mainstream. Since Tyla is the palatable version of an African pop star, according to Western European standards, there'd be a slew of labels wanting to replicate Tyla's formula from her ambiguous look to Africanish sound, and as a consequence, would make Tyla clones.
Girl, I'm gonna do it all.
Which could ultimately lead to non-black artists doing Afrobeats or Amapiano. Matter of fact, this happened already with the Asian Popstar scandal, where this Asian artist did a live performance cover of Tyla's Water and Tyla co-signed it. Then 2 months later, a K-pop group, LE SSERAFIM, copied Water's whole concept and sound, and people were outraged by it. However, we saw in real time people stealing the genre, and Tyla was helping. Maybe she didn't know what effect she was having, but all this is very ironic, since Tyla has mentioned wanting to help propel the genre and wanting Africans to represent the music. With seeing all this, I looked into Tyla's intentions, and I saw how she's been maneuvering her career to reach the top. And my general consensus is that, in my opinion, Tyla is an opportunist. She used whatever demo she can to reach the top, including using whatever blackness she has and her African identity. I wanted to mention this real quick, but I find Tyla's fashion so offensive beyond all levels. She's definitely playing into the primitive African with all the furs and the ripped clothing. I mean, look at her album shoot. It's like a cave. I also believe that Tyla plays into the alluring foreign beauty. She's flirting in her interviews, and the role she plays in the music videos speaks to this as well.
Well, you're very lucky then.
Plus, I peeped this a while ago, but Tyla and her camp are using Afrobeats and Amapiano as her edge to help separate herself from the current crop of American pop stars. She rode the African pop wave to get the success she has now, winning in a Grammy category Afrobeats primarily helped to create, earning a top 10 hit with Water, taking advantage of the traction other African pop songs had on the charts, most notably Rema's hit Calm Down, which helped prime the American audience for Tyla. However, it doesn't end there. Prior to Water being a viral hit, Tyla used up whatever clout the African pop scene could give her. She was romantically linked to Rema at one point, using up his popularity. Then there is a moment where she collaborated with Our Star, doing a song with her. The two also promoted their song together, and Ira even brought her out during her set at Afrochella to help promote Tyla. Now, post-Water success, have we seen Tyla even mention these people? The only African artist I've heard her repeatedly shout out was Tems, and that's because they did a collab on her album, which in my opinion, the only reason why I think Tyla worked with her was because Tems happens to be a big artist.
Right.
So, yeah, and just Tems, her voice.
Oh, her voice
I
is
feel
always
like
nice.
her voice added something to the album, which I really loved. So
100%.
Yeah.
And what I love to see as well, like African sisters just supporting each other as well. So
for
it's good to see.
sure,
You know what
like
I mean?
I really wanted an African girl feature. So when we were wrapping up the album, I was kind of like, okay, we didn't get the feature.
Okay, so there's this Apple Music interview that she did when she was talking about Tems and Number One, and she mentions that, you know, Tems, that the song is for everyone, but when I had it in mind, this is her speaking, it was really for the girls, me and Tems, girl power, African girls. All this stuff about African girl power to me is just all bull. If she were really about African girl power, she wouldn't have axed Ira from her album. Matter of fact, she wouldn't have only one African female artist on the album. Like seriously, you guys, the majority of the album has American features. Editing me here, I also wanted to mention how Tyla's background is being handled, like it's being handled as a gimmick. I already mentioned her aesthetics, but in considering some of her visuals, it gets worse, right? Specifically, her lyric videos, usually it typically shows tropical areas in the jungle. And what really takes the cake in all this is that the font in the visuals is like tribal font. I don't know, whatever it is. It just screams stereotype. Like, yeah, let's give the African girl the tribal font because, yeah, she's African. At times, it feels like Tyla is making herself out to be this mystical POC from a magical foreign land.
So for those that have never experienced an Amapiano party before, can you tell us some things that we're guaranteed to see once you walk through those doors?
Yay! You guaranteed to see drunk people, very drunk.
Yeah.
Guaranteed to see people on tables, like with bottles on their heads, like just vibing, everybody dancing, circles.
Yeah, where people dance on tables and the party scene is out of this world. And like literally she brings up South African nightlife a lot, and I get it. It pertains to her music, and I get that she really wants to hype up her people and represent, but the way she talks about them and the way that she acts, like her quips, sometimes I think she just overplays them. It just kind of rubs me the wrong way. I could be misconstruing it. Please let me know, but I just think she's doing too much. Like, it's really gimmicky. And looking at the other African artists, I don't recall them ever talking about their homeland in the same mystical, magical, or gimmicky way like Tyla does. On top of all of this, Tyla rarely shouts out the African artists who've helped pave the way for her.
It wasn't easy to get here. Like, obviously, there's a very long way to go, but still, even getting here was very difficult. And I can't imagine how much more difficult it was for the people before me, like Wizkid or Burna Boy or Davido and all those artists that were able to open doors for us.
So forgive me if I question her loyalty to the African pop scene. But Afropop isn't the only demo she's using up. In my opinion, I think she's also using Black American platforms for clout too. Again, whatever box she can check off, she's using it. So let me just say, I personally would categorize Tyla as a POC or mixed person, not Black per se. I mean, y'all were fighting all over the internet trying to figure out whether or not she was Black or what to call her. And this girl, mind you, this girl, look at her. but whatever. Tyla eventually came out claiming herself as black amongst other things, which I don't know how to feel about, but as I digress, maybe she's with how Tyla is marketed, how she is moving in Black American spaces. I feel like there's been a concentrated effort to garner undying loyalty and sympathy from Black consumers, particularly from Black women in regards to Tyla. We get these kinds of quotes per Harper's Bazaar. We get Tyla endorsing prominent Black hair care brands.
In primary school, I used to feel like I wanted my hair to be straight. I wanted to be lighter. But I think it was definitely because of the school I went to. And I feel like me writing a lot of those songs helped me to feel more comfortable.
We see a heavy-handed effort to align Tyla with Blackness, basically. So we see in the collaborations, the aesthetics, which to me all screams inauthentic because, first off, I don't think Tyla is actually down for the culture. Meaning, I don't think she's actually for uplifting Black people specifically or invested in the betterment of Black Americans or the Black diaspora in general. Matter of fact, whenever she's asked any type of representation questions, she double downs on the African angle.
So last week, we had in Tyla on the show. You know Tyla, yeah? Make me sweat. Love it. And I asked her which Black woman in music has inspired her. Here's what she said.
Okay.
Thames.
Talk to me. What is it about Thames that you love so much?
She's an African woman. She's killing the game like globally. Everybody loves her. The things that she's doing for African music, and she's just becoming a role model for other African female artists. Like she's literally like from another world.
Yeah.
She's amazing.
And again, I wouldn't have an issue with her, with the hairstyles, with the being around Black people, like using up Black platforms, if she was down for the culture, but I don't think she is.
Do you say Black Lives Matter?
So anyways, with all that said, I'm not giving out undying Black girl loyalty to just anybody, not even the Black celebs. If there's one thing I learned during the shutdowns is that not all skin folk are kinfolk. I have to see your actions. Words mean nothing otherwise. And you might be wondering why I think Tyla is disingenuous. Well, aside from the fact that she has never spoken out about empowering Black people, the main reason why I think Tyla isn't down for the culture can be seen from her recent interview with Cosmo specifically, where she addresses the race controversy that's been plaguing her career thus far. She states, "When people are like, you're denying your Blackness, it's not that at all. I never said I'm not Black. I just grew up as a South African, knowing myself as colored. Now that I'm exposed to more things, it has made me other things too. I'm also mixed race. I'm also Black. I know people like finding a definition for things, but it's quote unquote and, not quote unquote or. As young people, we have a platform where we can speak about things like this, things that are new and controversial and scary. It's a perfect time for this conversation to happen." I read this and I accepted that answer. And what caught my attention was how she addressed her racial controversy. Specifically the part where she says, "It's just that I grew up as a South African, knowing myself as colored. As young people, we have a platform where we can speak about these things that are new and controversial," that bit. So reading that, it got me thinking that she didn't know anything about American racial classifications or racial dynamics. Fair enough, right? She isn't from here, so how would she know? How would she know how to move right in Black American spaces? And again, speaking on how Tyla's helping decentering Black Africans from Afropop, if she didn't know of the racial dynamics in America, how would she know not to be used as a tool? From this answer, I gave her somewhat of a pass. I thought she wasn't intentionally being harmful. Keyword intentionally. She's still an opportunist though. Anyways, however, my opinion on Tyla's intentions quickly changed when I came across this interview back in 2022.
So I feel like as a white male in South Africa, there's not a culture that I relate to or want to relate to. Like, fuck my forefathers, you know what I mean? Like, fuck the slave owner. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like as a white male in South, especially in hip hop music, I'm trying to create a new culture of ally. Like, if you're gonna be a white homie in South Africa, that's cool, but there's certain things you need to do just simply based on our past. You know what I mean? So that's my agenda.
So seeing Tyla witness this discussion about how this white artist needed to tread differently going to a Black genre and a country with a racist history got me thinking, wow, so Tyla was given a glimpse of what her path in America could be, and she wasn't taking any notes. Mind you, at this time, Tyla would have considered herself a non-Black racial category. And it just gets me thinking, why does she feel so comfortable navigating in a Black South African genre if she saw herself as something else? Did she think that because she was part Black, she could get a pass? That could explain why Tyla feels so comfortable navigating in Black American spaces the way that she does. And it gets real sus when in another part of the 2022 video that I just mentioned earlier, the host brought up people disrespecting African Americans and stealing their music.
And it's something that I wish more American races that are not Black were conscious of. Our music culture specifically, because it's kind of like all we had to express ourselves. And it's like we're down with having other people join that. However, it's like just respect what we have going on. And I do love that you are respecting it, and I wish there were more people in America respecting it, but
And yet again, I'm seeing Tyla listen to all this and still seeing how she's moving. Using a Black African genre for a come up, taking up space in Black American platforms for clout, makes me think very ill of her. She doesn't care to tread respectfully, making sure she doesn't hurt the demo she's using for her come up. Look at Mariah Carey and Zendaya. They have a careful relationship with the Black community. They both try not to take up too much space. They understand their privilege. They understand how Black America sees them and how white America sees them. And they do everything in their power to uplift Black culture to the best of their ability without hurting or exploiting the demo. At the very least, Tyla can move like The Rock or Zoe Kravitz and, forge her own path without using up Black American spaces. And what really irritates me about all this is that she just has no respect, with the cultural boundaries or anything. So, unfortunately, I don't even think that she's even interested in doing the work. And guess what? It gets a little worse. Guess who is one of Tyla's biggest inspirations?
Drake. Like, I was low-key waiting for him. Because I knew, he's gonna come. So I was waiting for that follow, and he was there.
Yep, the man who gets dragged for being a biracial culture vulture. Tyla is such a fan, in fact, that she's been campaigning for a collab with Drizzy as recently as of December of last year.
My dream collab is Drake. 100%. It's coming soon. I'm putting it in the atmosphere.
Hopefully, with all the conversations going on with him right now, Tyla would get a clue. Because seeing how she had a chance to know better and didn't do better back in 2022 really makes me dislike this girl. And the way that she's moving is teaching consumers how to exploit Amapiano, African pop music, whatever. And I just have to mention this because I don't know where else to say this. How Epic is marketing her, how her team is marketing her, really reminds me of Camila Cabello. When Camila went solo, at first, they were marketing her as a Taylor Swift knockoff. Singer-songwriter who sings a lot about love, but a lot of her hits weren't stable on the Hot 100, so they pivoted to the Latin angle, and then we see Havana, and then we see Senorita. These are their two biggest hits to date, and even around that time, around Havana and all that stuff, they had Camila out here talking about immigrant rights, talking about her backstory, coming from Cuba and then making it to the mainstream, the American dream. She's an immigrant with the American dream. They rehashed that so much and played up the Latin angle so much that I just see a lot of that. It was kind of gimmicky. I see a lot of that with how they're marketing Tyla and their Africanness. And look where Camila is today. Like, she's still trying to find an identity. And she got dropped from Epic, so bad news all over. Okay, so before I close out this video, I just want to say, we as consumers, we need to make sure we are supporting the right people. It's not enough that artists share aspects of our identity. We need to watch how they move, because the people we gas up can influence culture. In regards to Tyla, I fully believe if people support an artist like her with an MO of exploiting at all costs that could damage all the traction African pop acts have made stateside. Like, you can tell from the team of artists, Tyla's camp doesn't care about protecting the popular genres coming from Africa or is invested in prolonging its longevity, really adding to that culture. Tyla might say she cares, she'll make it a point to mention it in interviews, but her action tells a different story. I looked at the key people in her camp and they aren't Black Africans. Most are American or other, but basically looking at these people, who here are of the Amapiano culture? Who gives them the right to dub Tyla with all these accolades? It should be Black Africans picking their superstars, Black Africans giving out major accolades. It's their culture. All of this would help the continent tremendously, because then it'd be the Africans benefiting off their stars' success. Successful pop stars can bring a lot of economic prosperity to their home countries, so there's major stakes here. And what kills me is that if her team was interested, there was already a blueprint to help ethically consume African pop music. Unlike the joint partnership Tyla has between Epic and Fax Records, there's loads of Black African pop artists who are signed to powerful labels run and owned by Black Africans that have made joint deals with major American labels, ensuring their people are eating too. Not only that, but the label and the artists are prioritizing their African listeners, whether it be making sure to tour back home, creating music incorporating their indigenous languages, inserting domestic references, and or repping their countries even in the visuals. Africans are still the priority. And I've noticed how a lot of African artists, no matter the country, make it a point to support one another. Of course, there's drama, there's issues, but there's also a strong sense of camaraderie. So needless to say, I don't think highly of Tyla or her team. Hopefully they'll change their ways, but only time will tell. And I must say, this Cosmo footnote said it best. It's clear that Tyla has studied the recent history of her art form. You can see it in her style, her signature sexy look. High slits, crop tops with abs heavily featured. Feels very reminiscent of the late 90s and early aughts stars. Yep, Tyla is definitely taking notes from the late 90s and early aughts. Appropriating, trafficating, and expropriating. I couldn't have said it better. Thanks for watching. Please comment, like, and subscribe.